Right now, you are probably throwing away marks on your Cambridge IGCSE logic gates questions. And honestly, it has absolutely nothing to do with whether you've memorized your truth tables or not. The difference between just scraping a pass and securing an absolute top-band score comes down to one specific exam strategy that almost everyone completely ignores.
So let's kick things off with a little two-student duel. Picture this. You're sitting in the exam hall. The clock is ticking. The question asks you to explain the use of an AND gate in a factory's automated robotic arm. Both students know the theory perfectly. Student A writes this flawless, beautiful, textbook definition of an AND gate and draws a perfect symbol. Student B? They skip the generic definition entirely and just explain how the AND gate requires both the motion sensor to be triggered and the power switch to be on before the robotic arm can actually move. So, who gets full marks?
Student B totally takes the win, full top band marks. And student A? Literally 0 marks. 0. And this perfectly illustrates why ordinary, everyday revision completely fails for Cambridge IGCSE computer science. Most students just memorize shapes and tables in total isolation instead of actually learning what the concept's purpose is in the real world.
Here is the brutal truth. Generic answers equals 0 marks. Examiners actively punish responses that just spit out textbook definitions. Think about it. When you study a logic gate as just a weird little shape on a piece of paper, you're learning the what, but you are completely missing the why. You've got to treat logic gates as part of a larger, connected computer science system, not just random isolated facts.
Okay, so how do we fix this? You need to build a concept-first mindset. Every single time you look at a logic gate or a circuit diagram, you need to stop and ask yourself, what digital problem is this thing actually trying to solve? What data or devices are involved here? What specific process is taking place, and what's the real-world consequence for the user? Once you answer those questions, suddenly all that dense terminology actually means something.
Now, it is absolutely crucial to map out your theoretical foundations by getting crystal clear on closely related concepts. Examiners see the same mistakes over and over because learners constantly confuse nearby ideas. Just like you have to separate memory from storage or a compiler from an interpreter, you really need to be able to contrast logic processing with arithmetic processing. Mastering these comparisons, it's not negotiable if you want a top-tier strategy.
Let's move forward and see how this all builds into your ultimate defensive strategy. I call this the 4-step examiner framework. This is the exact technical methodology that examiners are desperately hoping to see when they read your logic gate explanations. It takes you from just recognizing a shape to delivering a fully applied top-band answer.
So here is the exact disciplined path you've got to follow. Step 1. Identify the exact requirement of the task. Step 2. Classify the relevant data, hardware, or algorithm. Step 3. Explain how the process works in a clear sequence. Like, explain it so well that a totally new learner could easily follow along. And Step 4. Connect that explanation right back to the context. Always double-check if the question wants causes, effects, advantages, or design decisions. To actually power through those steps under exam pressure, you need what we call the 4-prompt memory structure. When you're revising, throw away those basic flashcards that just have a symbol on one side and a name on the back. Seriously, ditch them. Instead, always ask 4 things. What is it? How does it work? Where is it used? And why is it chosen over the alternatives? This totally replaces rote memorization with a deep, applied understanding.
We are building a rock-solid foundation here, but listen closely. In just a moment, I'm going to show you the ultimate examiner clue that will change your logic gate answers completely. It is literally the single biggest difference between dropping a grade boundary and locking in that A star. But first, you needed that 4-step framework, so this clue makes total sense.
All right, here is that golden examiner clue. Anchor to the context. As our source material clearly points out, examiner-style performance in logic gates totally depends on specificity. Generic responses, they rarely get full marks. The crazy thing is, students often know the underlying theory flawlessly, but they hemorrhage marks simply because they refuse to anchor their explanation to the specific details given in the exam prompt.
Think about all these real-world contexts for a second. The exact same logic gate patterns show up in smartphones, school systems, industrial control, robotics, secure communications, the list goes on. If the exam context is a security incident at a bank, your answer has to stay laser-focused inside that banking context. Showing these links is how you prove to the examiner that you understand the reason for using a method rather than just memorizing its name. And this leads us straight into a classic wrong turn. Look at the difference here.
On one side, you have a student just dropping the name of a device or throwing out a vague advantage. On the other side, a student is explaining exactly how it works inside the given scenario. Let me be clear. You will lose marks if you just name a method without explaining the how, or if you state an advantage without giving a solid reason for it.
So how do we guarantee you don't fall into that trap? Let's talk about the actionable revision strategy that makes you totally adaptable for the Cambridge IGCSE and O-Level exams, the 3-pass revision cycle. This layered approach is a total game changer for computer science, mainly because exam questions almost always blend pure theory with applied reasoning.
Here's how you actually run the cycle. Pass 1, secure those key definitions and contrasts, nail the basics. Pass 2, rehearse your worked explanations, your diagrams, your code-like structures. But Pass 3 is where the absolute highest marks are won. You've got to mix up the scenarios, change up the variables, and force yourself to logically and mathematically justify your choices.
Okay, interactive checkpoint time. Next time you sit down, open your 0478 exam paper and see a logic gates question. I want you to literally stop, pause, ask yourself, what exactly is this task testing? If you take 5 seconds to diagnose what the question is actually demanding before you even pick up your pen, you won't just blindly brain dump everything you know onto the page.
Are they testing your ability to explain a process step by step? Are they hunting for hardware and software selection? Is it binary manipulation, logical reasoning, maybe choosing test data? Once you lock on to the specific demand of the question, you can customize your 4-step framework to exactly what the mark scheme wants to see.
Which brings us to the most frustrating way to lose points, even when you know the topic perfectly: the missing process step. Our source material flags this constantly. The most common errors come from vague wording or just casually skipping a logical step in your explanation. You absolutely cannot assume the examiner knows what you mean. You have to walk them through every single gate, input and output, without skipping a beat.
So you've got the 4-step examiner framework. You know how to anchor your logic to the context. You're using the 3-pass revision cycle. You should be invincible, right? Well, actually, scratch that. What if you make the fatal mistakes that are explicitly warned about in the official Cambridge Examiner reports? Because honestly, knowing this framework isn't enough if you blindly walk right into the specific traps that wipe out A-star grades every single year.
Uncovering those exact traps is literally the only way to safeguard your top grade. In our next explainer, we are breaking down the absolute worst Computer Science 0478 examiner report mistakes and showing you exactly how to avoid them. You cannot afford to skip this. Click the next explainer on your screen right now to lock in your strategy. And remember, subscribe to our YouTube channel Ace the Exams at acexams_IGCSE to excel in your Cambridge examinations. I'll see you over there.